Oh, you're not gonna believe this one. Honestly, even now, I find myself replaying that morning over and over in my head, trying to convince myself it actually happened the way I remember it. You know those rare mornings when the world feels half asleep, as if time itself hasn't quite caught up and everything that happens seems just a little too surreal to be real? That morning, that was exactly one of those. It began quietly, almost invisibly. My neighbor's son walked into my kitchen at the crack of dawn, and what happened next completely changed how I saw myself, the hours around me, and maybe even life itself. But before I dive into it, I have to ask, where are you watching from tonight? I see people tuning in from all over Texas, Ohio, even Chile, Maine, and I absolutely love hearing where everyone is watching from. And hey, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and give a thumbs up. Seriously, it means the world. It's like we're sharing stories over coffee all across time zones. That morning, I woke earlier than I expected. The clock read 5:30 a.m., though it didn't matter much because the sun hadn't yet touched the blinds. The birds, however, were already awake, filling the air with that delicate, hopeful symphony that only dawn can produce. It's always struck me as strange how the world can feel at once utterly empty and somehow profoundly full in those quiet hours. Sleep had been eluding me lately. Maybe it was age, maybe it was loneliness, or maybe it was just my mind, stubborn and restless, refusing to quiet itself. Whatever it was, it had become routine. Shuffling to the kitchen, robe clinging lightly around me, hair messy, eyes half closed, and letting the aroma of brewing coffee chase away the shadows. That robe, I've had it for years, is faded blue with little floral patterns still barely visible on the pockets. It smells faintly of soap and old fabric softener, and it feels like comfort itself. I leaned against the counter as the first faint brush of pink sunlight crept along the curtains, stretching lazily across the room. I thought about how strange it was, this house that had once roared with life. 8 years ago, my husband was gone in an instant. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. And last year, my daughter moved to Seattle. Now I was here alone, surrounded by walls that had once held laughter, arguments, teenage music blasting through the rooms, and the smell of dinner that had filled every corner. And then I froze. A faint creak from the back door. At first, I thought it might be the wind, but then came soft, hesitant footsteps. Careful, deliberate, like someone didn't want to wake the world. And then he appeared. My neighbor's son. He's 26 now, maybe 27. Stepped in. I hadn't seen him much since college. I remembered him then as lanky, awkward, shy, always offering to mow the lawn or carry groceries when his mother sent him over. That morning, though, the man who entered my kitchen was different. Taller, broader, a presence that filled the room before you even realized it. "Mrs. Langley," he said, voice low, uncertain, a little hesitant. I didn't mean to scare you." I laughed softly, somewhere between surprise and relief. "You nearly gave me a heart attack. What on earth are you doing here at this hour?" He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "Mom locked herself out last night. I came over for the spare key you keep for her. I knocked, but I guess you didn't hear me." It made sense. I kept the spare for Carol ever since she started forgetting little things. Keys, appointments, birthdays. She's only a few years older than me. But it's hard watching someone you love slowly slip into forgetfulness. I gestured to the counter. "You might as well have some coffee before you go. It's fresh." He hesitated a beat, then nodded. The sunlight caught his face as he sat across from me at the small kitchen table. Strong jawline, eyes deeper somehow, like he'd seen and carried more than I realized. For a long moment, we simply existed together. No words, just the quiet hum of the coffee maker, the ticking of the clock, and the subtle promise of dawn. "You ever notice," he said finally, eyes on his mug, "how everything feels clearer before the world wakes up? Like the air, honest somehow." I nodded, caught off guard. He was right. There's a clarity in morning silence, the kind that lets you hear yourself think without interruption. He looked up, and in that brief glance, I felt a human recognition I hadn't realized I'd been missing. The kind of gaze that sees past walls, past routines, and maybe past years of loneliness. We talked for hours. It felt like ain'ts about life, his job, the strange feeling of coming home, about broken engagements and being unseen. And the word seen lingered in the room, heavy and alive. It's funny, isn't it, how being seen can feel terrifying, and yet necessary all at once. The sun climbed slowly, spilling gold through the kitchen curtains, and I noticed small things. The warmth of his hands around the coffee mug, the calm strength in his gestures. The house, for the first time in years, didn't feel empty. It felt possible. The following days felt different, though nothing around me had changed. The sun still rose, the birds still sang, and the coffee still smelled the same. But the house didn't feel empty anymore. That morning encounter had shifted something inside me. It was subtle, like the first warm light of dawn brushing over cold tiles, but I could feel it. Ethan continued to visit, not always planned, sometimes just passing by to chat or bring a basket of fresh vegetables from his mother's garden. Those visits started to fill the gaps in my quiet days. We cooked together, laughed over small, silly mistakes in the kitchen, and shared stories that were light, heavy, and everything in between. One afternoon, as we were chopping tomatoes and stirring herbs into a simmering pan, I realized I hadn't felt this seen or this alive in years. The house felt alive again, not because of noise or clutter, but because of connection. We weren't rushing. We weren't trying to impress or perform. We were just being together. There were moments, small and fleeting, that made my heart race. A hand brushing past mine while passing a pan, a glance that lingered just a second too long, a smile that held more than politeness. But it wasn't awkward or forced. It was natural, like breathing. And slowly I began to realize that life, even after loss and loneliness, could still surprise you in the gentlest, most profound ways. One evening, after a long day of sunshine and conversation, Ethan stayed a little longer than usual. We sat in the kitchen, the soft hum of the fridge filling the spaces between words. "You know," he said quietly, "I didn't expect mornings like this when I came back. I didn't expect to feel home." I smiled, stirring my tea. "Home can be found in the strangest ways," I replied. He nodded, looking around the kitchen as if seeing it for the first time. Then, as if acknowledging something unsaid between us, he stood and collected his things. "Thanks for everything," he said, and it wasn't just about coffee or conversation. "Anytime," I whispered, and I meant it more than words could carry. When the door clicked shut behind him, the silence returned. But it was different now. Full, warm, quietly alive. I realized then that life doesn't always announce its gifts with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it simply slips in through a back door at dawn, carrying a little light and a reminder that you are never truly invisible. The following days were slower, gentler. I started noticing the small miracles: sunlight catching the dust in the corners of the kitchen, the sound of Ethan laughing with his mother in the yard, the aroma of fresh herbs from the garden. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still empty nights and quiet moments that could sting. But now I knew that connection, warmth, and being seen were never too far away. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. And that's how a simple knock at the door reminded me that connection can appear when you least expect it. Sometimes the smallest moments, coffee shared, a conversation held, can change everything. Thank you for listening, and remember to cherish the quiet, unexpected mornings in your own life.